All right, we're live. Took me a minute to get unmuted. I've got two headphones in. It's all right. We're trying to make do with the tech that we have. We've got a big rabbit hole to cover with you tonight. And if you are one of the 13 million people that have already watched Joe Rogan's last interview that came out last week with Elon Musk, you probably have been thinking some of the same things that we're going to be talking about tonight. I've got a couple guests with me. Army veteran, the Just James. Okay, we've got Gene, the person that warned you, or that your granny warned your mother or grandmother about. That guy, we found him. And we're going to go and talk about what the potential of AI and human integration, like Elon Musk wants to achieve. And so, we're going to talk about what does that look like? There's pros, there's cons, there's some benefits, and there's some curses. It can go either way. And I wanted to hear from the general public, some people that I knew, and put a video out to kind of open the conversation because I think we need some insight. I think we need some oversight. And I think we all know of a couple times in history where those two things weren't there or they were and failed. We need to be concerned. So, without further ado, I want to bring on a good friend of mine and business partner, the Just James. Mr.
Hey man,
James, how are you doing tonight?
pretty good, pretty good. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing all right, man. We're just, going to dive into this little rabbit hole here. You know, what what's your thoughts on this, man? Like we're talking about a chip integrated into a brain. It's a computer. You're connected to the computer. That's what Elon Musk is trying to accomplish right now. And it's either keep it us and them, like we already got robots. They're over there doing their thing, or if you can't beat them, join them. What do you think about that?
Well, I personally feel that we're already integrated with them to an extent. I mean, to me, he just really made it obvious to everyone, and he kind of went to the extreme when he talked about actually placing the chip into the brain, because we already are connected to the hip by our cell phone, which is artificial intelligence at its finest. When you go back to the video, he speaks about how you almost feel as if you're missing a limb when you don't have it. But actually, think about the artificial the artificial ligaments that are already given to individuals, i.e., soldiers who lost a leg, um, individuals who heart doesn't pump correctly, and they add some kind of pacemaker, and it's all ran off of the way that your body responds anyway. So now that he's talking about placing it into your brain and it has the capability to take over your whole body, now it's a major concern, because it's one thing for you to place a chip into my arm, and it has the functions to react as a regular arm. It's one thing for you to place something into my heart, so in the event that it slows down, it kind of pumps. Because worst case scenario, I'll be affecting myself in the end. But when you start placing things where it has the capability to take control over an actual human body, you take control from the individual. And I'm pretty sure there'll be some kind of safeguards in place, but you you can't stop people from stealing your credit card. You can't, like, I mean, you can't stop the ads from popping up off of Facebook. Like, and you want me to allow you to place some kind of chip into my brain? I, Me personally, I won't. indulge, but I do understand how they're going to be able to integrate it into the normal society. They're going to use illnesses, kind of the same way they do with the corona, stay in the house. They're going to scare people.
Right.
And if that doesn't work, they're going to use the youth to encourage the elderly. Oh, I want to be with you forever. And this is how we can do it. And they'll practice on those who have illness and who don't have enough funding. So it'll be kind of like hey, we want to give this to you for your well-being. And then again, this is all just my opinion. And
Right.
opinions are like
I I mean, we're in some foreign territory here, man. Like, I mean, I remember what the military was testing when we were in, as far as like robotic advancement and what they could do with how we can be battle ready and stuff. And I'm not going to talk about that because I can't. But with a guy like Elon, and remember, this is someone that the whole world said, no, you can't, impossible, you will never do it, it can't be done. And there I am, watching a rocket fall out of the sky, landing in the middle of the ocean on a pad, forever reducing the cost of space exploration forever, right? And so something like this concerns me. It's like, dude, Elon Musk is a genius. If he doesn't say it, I'll say it. That dude's smart. He can figure some stuff out. And as a business guy myself, I think about stuff like this. Okay, he launches a startup for Neuro-Link in 2016. Okay, let me just let that sink in for a minute. 2016. It's 2020. It's about to be 2021 because we all got locked down for 2020. So he's had a whole nother year where he can't even go nowhere to focus on some stuff. Now, I know how long I work on things before maybe I submit my legal business paperwork. What do you think? How long do you think he's really been developing this? And do you think he has something to release to the public in 3 months like he says he does?
I think he definitely has something to release, but I don't think it's on the level as the chip. I think he's gonna release something that is gonna show that he has the capability to take full control, which has already been shown, of a robot. And then he may integrate it. He may be ready to integrate it into some kind of animal. My thoughts.
No, that makes sense. I get that. And we do have some other people that are in the waiting room here that want to come on and talk. So if you're watching and you want to come on the show real quick while we're talking about this stuff, we're gonna be bouncing. The Just James, he'll be up here. My next guest is Gene, from I'm gonna butcher this, the Phoenix Network. Right? He's been out here for years doing this news stuff, and he's got some insight he's gonna drop. So, let me go to a short commercial break real quick, and we're going to pop back up here. Stay in the green room. I'm going to bring Gene up and see what his thoughts are on so far. And then we'll bring you back up and see who else pops in the green room.
All right.
All right, guys. So the next guest I got to bring on, I've been talking to him for a week or so here, and we had some mutual connections in the valley. And so far, I'm dumbfounded by the amount of information that this man has and the way he looks at things. And so I want to bring on Gene here, and I'm telling you, he's the one that your mom got warned about by her mom before she even had you. Uh, you consider yourself warned. So we're going to bring Gene on right now. Gene, how you doing?
I'm not hearing you. I've got I've got no audio on my end.
You got no audio?
I lost both you and James about 4.5 minutes ago.
All right, why don't you log out and log back in? All right, but there is some technical difficulties with the app. So let me try to do two things at once while we're here. And again, we're just opening this conversation about what's going on with this chip, this brain chip. Elon Musk has got a brain chip. He wants it to go in. He says it's better to integrate and become one rather than keep us separate from AI. I don't know if I agree with that. You know, it's a very questionable thing. Let's see here. I'm gonna texting Eugene as I can. You can even hear it in the video. It's awesome. So we'll see if he gets that message. Try to get him signed back in. But you know, a couple of these other topics that I want to cover is like here. This, I mean, this Falcon 9. You know, it landed on its own, all by itself. So I firmly believe that he can accomplish this. You know what I'm saying? And let's see here. Gene, can you hear me? Still can't hear me? That's how tonight's going to go. That's awesome. He'll be signing out and signing back in. Let's bring James back up for the time being until he gets there. Hey, James, we're going to bring you back on. Gene's got some technical difficulties going on. There's probably some people that don't want us talking about this. So we'll just keep going, and let's go on to the next part. Look, bottom line, a choice is going to have to be made.
So real quick, you're having issues with the sound.
Right.
And we're chipping people.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
I mean, because
you know what?
I
see what you did there.
The small things.
The small things.
Like, so I'm riding down the road, and
Right.
and imagine this. Imagine this. Off subject. You know, I'm gonna go back to riding down the road. I'm riding down the road, and it's a motorcycle on my left hand side.
Right.
My sound goes off.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know this motorcycle is here, and I go to switch lanes.
I see what you're saying. So, like, at the same time, Elon Musk says that we want to chip you. I have to use two separate headphones to make sure I can hear my live stream video and use my phone because that's better than my computer. And there's a delay a little bit. There's an echo sometimes. Or just like we proved with Gene here, let's see if he can come up. Can you hear us now, Gene?
I hear you now.
Oh, so sometimes
I ended up going out and coming back in.
Sometimes the technology that we have right now doesn't work.
Speaking of chips, I don't know what to tell you, man. Yeah,
Where do you want to go with this, Gene?
Well, see, here's the thing. Out of the research that I've done over the many years, there are so many rabbit holes that I could go down with this. So I'm going to try to just stick to the issue of Elon and his announcement. And we know that he's been working on this for a long time. I didn't remember that it was as far back as 16, but I remembered that he's been doing this for a long time, talking about this. Number one, the idea of the chip in the brain, the direct connection, scares the hell out of me. Now, I have the highest respect for Elon Musk. Most people, when they hear Elon Musk's name, they'll think Tesla. I hear Elon Musk's name, and the image that comes up in my brain is the Falcon 9 landing on the platform in the middle of the damn ocean. Okay? So I have the highest respect for the man. But I believe that when it comes to his ideas on bandwidth, and that is a reason that we should do the connection, I think he's wrong. I tend for a hardcore, ultra conservative, right wing, bleeding heart liberal to be a bit of a metaphysicist. So I study people as well, like Bruce Lipton, Joe Dispenza, Greg Braden. I listen to them. And I believe that Greg Braden is right, that we don't really need a chip to connect to a higher capacity or a higher brain, because the very way that they programmed us and programmed so many of us so quickly with this whole pandemic thing is the mirror neurons in our brain. You see, most of the time, and I doubt that Elon thinks in these terms, but most of the time, when you see something, it could be a TV show, could be a movie, your brain, your subconscious, doesn't actually know the difference between what you're watching on a screen and what you're experiencing in real life. I know you've done this. You've been in a movie, watching a movie. You've been watching a TV show. Scary movies are the best example. How many times have you heard people in a theater watching the scary movie? No, no, don't go in there. Don't go in there, you idiot. And their heart's racing and they're freaking out because, according to their brain and their brain chemistry, their neurons, they are living that experience. It's just as real to them as if they were standing outside of that garage saying, don't go in the garage. So the mirror neurons, Bruce, Joe Dispenza is really good at this about reaching a higher plane of contemplation. Bruce Lipton is great on epigenetics, which is about gene expression. Bruce Lipton has been a pioneer in epigenetics for decades. And his entire thing is that it's not the DNA, it's not the genes that control us, it's the way our genes express themselves in function, and that can be changed. Now, here's the thing. I'm scared by the idea of the chip. I'm thrilled with the neural interfaces for vets, for the ones with the arms, the legs. Some of them are now working with back problems, helping vets and others who are paralyzed walk again. But I was writing about the arm experiments several years ago in blogs, and I remember that they pointed out that they were having the monkey's robot arm reach out and grab what it wanted, what the monkey wanted, from halfway around the world. That was just with the neural interface and receptors. Okay? 60 Minutes had the vet that had the artificial arm. That by the time of the end of the segment, which was probably took a couple days to shoot, he was referring to the artificial arm as his arm. They've now coined the term for it, embodiment. And yes, Elon's right about the fact that so many of us are already connected to the AI because essentially we've embodied our smartphone as part of our thinking process. We've embodied our computers as part of our thinking process. I happen to be blessed with having started on my quest of doing research back when Packard Bell was still in computers. In fact, I had to go to the law library to look up law, to look up cases, because they weren't accessible on the internet. Very little of what's accessible on the internet now was accessible 25, 26 years ago. I learned how to do this with paper. So I perhaps have a higher, I don't want to call it a resistance factor because that's not exactly the correct term, but I have a higher tolerance for leaving my phone behind. I don't like it. Oh crap, I left my phone behind. Well, I'll just see who called when I get back.
You
It's
know,
not that
Gene,
big a deal.
it's funny you say that, man, because I've noticed myself over the next like last few weeks or months or so, where I've just kind of like, you know what? I think I'm just gonna leave my phone at home. I don't think I need it, and I'm just going to go out and do what I need to do and come back. Because like even our phones right now, and you know, just to do a little sidebar, I mean they're tracking where we're going. You know, they're constantly updating. Okay, and even now the most recent updates for your Apple phone, they're like predicting where you're about to go based on where you've been most likely the
Uh-huh.
last 8 months or whatever. So if you go to the gym every day at 6 o'clock in the morning, I bet your phone's trying to give you directions there before you go, because that's happened to me a couple
No
times.
doubt.
And
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 and here,
so
I told you this terrifies me. When I first read about these possibilities as far back as 39 years ago, all right, now I'm not going to go any deeper than that in this particular show. We can delve into it deeper on another one because it's going to be a deep dive. But what terrifies me is that, for example, Skynet in the Terminator movies, the way the
right,
whole Terminator system ran, all the weapon systems, and ultimately took over, it already exists.
right,
NSA created Skynet years ago, over almost a decade ago, if not longer, for the specific purpose of tracking the phone calls and the emails and the locations of terrorists. Because, of course, they'd only ever do that to protect us. Except that within about 4 or 5 years, Ed Snowden disclosed that they were using the technology on all of us.
right. You know, and
And I
there's
knew that.
it,
I didn't have to have Ed Snowden tell me this
right,
because there was a program back in the late 20th century called Echelon where they were already tracking every phone, every fax, every email, every telex amongst the Five Eyes, as they called them: Australia, New
right,
Zealand, Great Britain, the United States, Canada. Okay. I was doing speeches about that in 99, in 2000. So what Snowden disclosed didn't strike me as any surprise. That's why I still think he's a hero.
right. No, and you bring up some good points. You know, there's a lot to be concerned about with, you know, some people, individuals like Elon Musk, and I'm sure other people who are developing similar things. You know, they've already got the tech to, you know, help people's spinal injuries and stuff like that. And so it's only a matter of time before some of these decisions have to be made, though. You know, at the end of the day, is AI is not going anywhere. You know, we already have integrated it into our lives to this point. You know, Google is an AI. Facebook is an AI. That if you're watching on Facebook right now, you're a part of it. Instagram, all these different databases, so to speak, all these different coded programs, they're collecting information. And you know, one of the things they said is you know, we've come to a point where we can't input more data with 10 fingers. And and so I get the science behind the desire, so to speak, of,
Mm-hmm.
you know, human to computer interconnectivity, you might say, of how we could interact with them. And you know, for me, man, I'm cool with it as just a phone and a computer, and it already is. You know, from a psychological standpoint, it's already damaging in some people's lives. They're addicted to this stuff. They can't put the phone down for 5 minutes. You know what I'm saying? It's, so it just my imagination runs wild. And it's very interesting. Before I let you go, for right now, and I do want to bring you back on as we continue this conversation. I'm gonna bring the Just James back on real quick, because I want to talk about some of these pros versus cons. There's a lot of them out there. Some people are, if and then I'll bring him back on, and then we'll all three get on and just kind of have it out for the rest of the time we have tonight, and we'll see where it goes. Okay?
Because ultimately, as much as I'm talking theoretically against this, I'm truly ambivalent.
Right? Because there's some benefits. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, come on, man. Like this means you could download yourself into something, and you never really, neuro-linguistically die, I guess, if I could say that. Like, you can program yourself to always exist, essentially, in a robotic way. I mean, this is crazy. This is stuff that Walt Disney talked about. Imagine if they brought him back to life, because he's frozen. He brought him back to life, pumped his brain for a good 5 minutes, enough to download that thing, and man, I hope they do that. A little part of me hopes they do, because Disneyland's amazing. Gene, Disneyland's an amazing thing.
I know. Like I said, I'm ambivalent, man.
Right. Well, let me get back to James. We're gonna run to a short little commercial here, especially running with your Phoenix network. And, I do want to hear more about that at some point. We'll bring you back on here on AZ Metro. But let me go to a short break right now, and we'll bring the Just James back to talk about more of this, the pros and cons, maybe, so to speak, from his mindset.
See you in a bit.
All right, guys. Well, I'm back here, and I'm going to bring James back up. And before I do, I want to go into a little bit about what we're going to talk about. There's pros and cons to this, okay? There's, if you're disabled, and I have some disabilities, my knee hurts, my shoulder hurts, these different things. I've had surgeries. This potentially means it could fix all of that. If you're blind, you could see again. If you lose your hearing, you could hear again. These are, the thoughts of Elon Musk, and I'm sure much more experienced scientists and engineers that have these programs developed and have developed them into hardware. I mean, again, we're talking about a guy that launched rockets out, landed them on a pad, said he couldn't do it. I get concerned when he says he's got something to show us in 3 months. Man, Mr. Elon Musk, what's the survival rate of the procedure? Can we start there? And have you made our audio better for StreamYard and YouTube and Facebook, so we don't have to jumble up, which, by the way, they fixed that. So I'm going to bring James back on. Here he is. Mr. James, what are your thoughts, man? Where's the positives? There's some pros. There's got these people that got disabilities, okay? We're talking quadriplegics. They get this chip, they can walk again, all right? You got people that are blind, and I'm talking total retinal disconnection. These people can see again for the first time. So is there a way to, again, if we had an insight committee or an oversight committee, is there a way to develop these to be only very specific? Maybe we can choose to regulate it in a way that a chip is designed for a specific function, instead of just we're going to connect you to the internet and hope for the best. What do you think, man? Where's the pros and the cons? Where's the balance? Where's the scales? Be the Just James.
All right. So I do understand there's pros and cons to it, like everything else. I guess we'll start with a couple pros. Like you were saying, in the event that you do have a disability, an illness, just normal body pains, this chip could eliminate those. But don't we already have things in place that do this? We have glasses that allow people who are colorblind to see. We have regular glasses that slowly perfect the imperfection in your regular vision. Yeah, I do understand that this chip has the capability of turning no sight to sight. And if I'm not mistaken, it's also going to give you the ability to expand the human life. But we're already overpopulated as it is. And then let's look at the business pros. Because I work a little in the business field. Imagine being able to go on a site and you can easily understand every language around you. Because right now I work on sites with individuals who speak Spanish and I'm at a loss. Now, yeah, I understand Poquito, but that's not enough. But if you had a chip, this would never be an issue again. Everything would be transparent. But then the downside, like like every other advancement in life, it 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 has its pros, i.e., back when we were on horseback and the first car came around. Yes, it has its pros. Man, we can get from point A to point B extremely quicker. But then it also had its cons. If you get in an accident in this, the casualty rate is a lot higher. So fast forward to nowadays, you have people with iPhones, computers, just those things that's not actually integrated into their body, and they're hacking people. They're uh, soliciting and taking information. So imagine if it's integrated into you. That means you can walk around, so you're mobile 24/7, and you're able to. And if you got a chip in and you want to see something closer, you can zoom in on it. So now that credit card that you were trying to put your pin in and be protective about, you no longer have that option. But then I'm pretty sure they're going to chip where your finances are being operated through this chip as well. And if I got the ability to hack into your chip, everything is gone. And I know I'm throwing a lot at you at once. I guess another one of my concerns is if a power outage happens
Mm.
or some kind of EMP or something, like, does let's let's say that you are a paraplegic, you get your chip, and you're walking, and for some reason, because if it's going to be battery operated. Some reason you got a malfunction with your chip, now your body just falls.
See, and that's the thing that we don't know. We don't know really how this operates or anything. This is just speculation on what what Mr. Musk has said.
I
Uh,
thought on the Rogan he said it was operated by battery. I'll have to
so
relook.
by
I'll have to
right,
relook.
we'll have to look into that too. We'll try to find some fact checkers on if this is battery operated or is it running off of the pulse of my heartbeat. That would be some good information to know, Mr. Elon. So again, there is I see there's these paths of like potential good, all right, but at the end it's like there's a lot of questionable things out there as far as why this is a bad idea. And it's like now it comes down to, like he said, and I guess you have to look at it in more of a macro setting. Just kind of break it like he does in his interview with Joe Rogan and whatnot. They were talking about the us versus them, because if it stays separate, like they said, then now we have advanced robots like out of these different startups that are happening with this, and they're already trying to mimic human behavior and actually make like physical humanoid robot, whatever you want to call them. Okay. And if we keep it separate, is that more dangerous than an integrated aspect? Because if
No,
like
I don't believe so. I don't, and the reason that I don't believe so is because you still have control over your physical. If it ever gets to a point where they're actually integrated and somebody has the ability to take control of your physical being,
right.
what else do you have? When you don't have money, when when everything else is stripped from you, all you have is your abilities that you are naturally given at birth. So if I got the ability to alter those, now what do you have besides the hopes that I don't destroy you?
Right. And so it begs the question, you know, and I think this is pushing the limits on ethics, on morals, on the boundaries that we know. You know, in past times, we've seen movies of science fiction, and flash forward to 2020, much of what we saw in the 80s and whatnot is now actually here. You know, it's some of these things do exist. So there's something to be said for, you know, these innovative minds that come up with these ideas that, you know, sometimes, not all times, but sometimes these things land and stick, and we're left as humanity to kind of decide, what do we do about it? You know, the thing that concerns me is that the government wasn't really concerned with Elon Musk and the fact that he said he was going to do this. Like, no one sat there apparently and said, you know, and I guess he had presented to all 50 governors. You know, it wasn't a small ordeal. Like, this was like, he was like, hey guys, this is a red flag. It's gonna be a problem. You should do something about this. And they're like, it's not that we're not worried about it or whatever. And you know, then he's like, all right, well, I'm gonna go make it happen then. And so
You still have the option to say no.
right, and I think that's a big one too. It's like you're still gonna have, like, hopefully you would still have the option to say no. So as we wrap up here, and like, man, you brought some good points on, you know, a balanced view of the pros and the cons. Because I mean, like, yeah, there's a lot of people with disabilities and whatnot. They're gonna, I get it. I would want that immediately if I could walk or see or whatnot.
Yeah.
And so there's, you know, and I think of it in the mental health industry as far as like depression, like it's gone. We can balance the brain, you know. And I think the science aspect, you know, is intriguing, because how far could we go? You know, what really is possible at that point? Is it necessary to push through and evolve in a way, with whether it's separate or integrated, which are kind of the two options we're left with? You know, is there a hope for a future that we can integrate and have it separate and nothing bad's going to happen? I don't know. You know, let's bring Gene on and have kind of a conversation to wrap up tonight's show about this, because I know it's going to be a part two to this.
I really think it'll push that whole one world that everybody talk about.
Okay, there's definitely going to be a part two about this, because I've expressed what my concerns are from the technology side. There's the science side that you just brought up. And then my other major concern with this is the human side. Now, Chris, you specifically mentioned the idea of some sort of oversight committee. I'm going to point out to you that much of what has gone on, not just in the last 4 years, but for my entire life, literally my entire life and longer, right? Almost my father's entire life, and he was born in 1909. Okay? There have been these things called congressional oversight committees. How well has that worked out? The only way I could even conceivably, I heard that. The only way I could even conceivably find any sort of comfort level in this is if we took the programming of it, the building up of the database, the data, out of human control. My first line acceptability limit is we'd have to hard code the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, into the AI, not software. Software can be hacked. not firmware. Firmware can be hacked. This would have to be hard coded, can't be overwritten, can't be overridden by the process. Because imagine for a moment, I'm going to go back to the congressional oversight committees here for a second. Imagine for a moment that whichever side of the current other pandemic that's going on, which is political, okay, whichever side of that you're on, it's really irrelevant because what would you be comfortable with if the other side gained control? What would you be comfortable with if the oversight committee, political or not, were to decide that, okay, we're going to let this be programmed by majority, okay, by majority thinking. If you ever needed clear evidence of how powerful Pavlov's research is, you're looking at it on a daily basis. Now, most people think of Ivan Pavlov and they think of the bell and the dog, okay? The dog salivating. First of all, Pavlov never used a bell. He used a tuning fork, he used a chime, something that gave a much clearer tone than a bell. But a lot of people don't know that Pavlov lived until 1936. And for the last 20 years, 30 years of his life, Pavlov was researching the same research. It had evolved into consciousness. You can see how everybody's been programmed. You yourself, I, have been programmed by television, by movies. I have the benefit of having been programmed by being the son of an Army Master Sergeant that fought in World War II. So
Sick.
I grew up with the John Wayne movies. That was my early coding.
Right.
Okay.
No, and you know, Gene, you bring up some good points. You know, and there is, you know, even with oversight or insight committees, you know, those have failed us in the past, and so it does come down to, like, I guess people like us that are just willing to start talking about this, because it's you know, to me, it's one of those things like, okay, if we can't stop it because the AI is already here, one of those two options is going to happen. But there's definitely got to be some form of political involvement, in my opinion, to minimize the risk of there being no involvement. You know, I mean, it's like as much as I don't like them, it's like, good. Could you just do your job for once? This one's a really important one, guys. Like, come on, you know. And it concerns me. And, like, I mean, look at where things are at right now with AI and how things are run, and the speculation of involvement with the elections, and just how much hacking can, you know, shoot, the Wells Fargo, you know, situation with stealing money, and how the click of a button, it could be that easy. So we can go down the rabbit hole of how bad of an idea this is. I'm just wondering, is there a way,
they're
you know,
already hacking our brain.
right?
Okay. They're already hacking our brains through music, through movies, through television, through the internet.
They'll be able to stream on now.
And they don't even need an interface for that. If they could connect direct,
Then we got a bigger problem.
Because, you know, the control is endless. Like, to be able to touch or to alter the mindset of somebody just by them staring at the screen, like you were saying, is one thing. But you have a chip, and imagine somebody making calls, like the person who decides, hey, we need to push this button.
Bro, you wouldn't even have to do that. You could instantly talk to people. Like, I mean, let's be real. If everyone's connected to the same central computer, whatever it is, hard drive here, hard drive there. I mean, I message people all day on Facebook. Imagine you not having to do that. No, you can literally think it. The message already downloaded. Like, the communication's done. You know what I'm saying? Like it brings us to again, we're already more intelligent, vastly. You know, again, and I'm just repeating what Elon Musk says because I agree with him. We're vastly more intelligent with our computers and smartphones than without them. We
Yeah.
instantly have answers right now, and is it really, and I ask, you know, it's like, man, is it really necessary to go to the next level right now? Like, do we really need that? Like, good lord, we can't even get a control of a biological virus, and you want to go starting into the future. You know, these are just some of the things I think about. These are the things that keep me up at night, you know,
Because
a little bit.
a
They damn
crutch is
well should.
good. Yeah, a crutch is good until you no longer need it.
Right.
So my cell phone is perfect when I need it, when I need it, when I need it. But if you done place this cell phone into my brain, when I no longer need it, I'm almost crippled because I'm
Right.
dependent on it. So at any time that is no longer available, I'm finished. I.e., these smartphones, you have people with smartphones and the simplest things they can't comprehend. Like you have a smartphone that has the ability to tap into everything in the world, and you're struggling find like you're struggling finding information.
Right.
Oh, dude, I was at a meeting 4 or 5 years ago, arranged with a group of, I call them kids. Of course, I insist I'm still in my 20s. I'm just way up in my 20s.
At the
But
top.
they were from AS. They were from AS. I'm 2046 now. Okay, they were from ASU. These were university grads, and a group of us in the meeting, people of all ages, decided, well, let's go talk some more. Let's go have lunch. Oh, okay, where are we going? Well, there's this restaurant. It's right across the street. They had to look it up on their phones. They had to look it up on maps. I said, it's across the street.
Just look up.
It's literally go down the street, cross the street.
Right there.
There it is. Well, I need to find it.
Yeah.
Graduates that couldn't even conceive of going somewhere without their phone telling them where to go.
Crippled. I was on a trip here recently when I came to see Chris, and it's points between Colorado and Arizona that your cell phone goes out.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
just just imagine you're traveling, you got your GPS going, it's dark outside because you're riding on a dark road, and it goes out. If you didn't take any kind of precaution to say, okay, I got to take 40 to 25, 25 will take me to, you're going to be lost because now your only hope is gone. And
Mm-hmm.
the individual I was riding with, we were talking about how back in the day you had to bring a map and you actually had to plot your route.
I remember that. I remember printing off of
Now,
MapQuest.
imagine that scenario and what that scenario does to a human that's never used a map. Imagine the physiological symptoms that they experience. Okay, the increased heartbeat,
Heart rate, sweating, panic.
Right.
more rapid breathing. Okay,
To all things
the
that Chip
one
should
of
be
the things I
controlling.
taught myself a time ago is that those symptoms that you have when you're very fearful, when you experience fear and you have those physiological responses, those are exactly the same responses that you had as a little kid when mom said, "Daddy's home," and you were jumping up and down and you were yelling, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy, Daddy." Your heartbeat was faster. You were breathing faster. You were having trouble thinking. The exact same. I learned how to reframe fear into anticipation. I taught myself how to go from panic mode. And since we're online and this is not actual radio, I can say this without you having to get slapped down by the FCC. I could go, oh shit, oh fuck, oh damn, okay.
I got to make sure I put
That's
the parental advisory on YouTube now. Thanks.
my higher thinking skills. I get hit with the panic. I get hit with the the reptile brain, whatever you want to call it. I get hit with the oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. By the time I got to the third one, I'm already thinking of how to fix it.
Right. You guys bring up some good points on this. And, again, I think we're going to have a second conversation here as we near an hour up on the live stream. And, I want to thank both of you for tuning in tonight and just having this conversation with me. It's mind boggling. Again, I just wanted to talk about something different than this dang virus going on. And two, this is important stuff, man, because like I said, AI is here. It's not going anywhere. It's here to stay. So at some point, the decision's going to be made.
The only way we get rid of AI is if there's such a massive solar flare that it wipes out the entire planetary electrical grid.
Right. Yeah, you never know. AI. Right. But anyways, well, hey, guys, thank you for tuning in tonight. I'll definitely have you both back on our show when we do this kind of open forum. And again, we're going to be doing this, over the next forever now because I have AZ Metro and we're going to have open forum discussions. So all those places that have open forum discussions, let me get my hand up. When they don't let the public ask questions, you know who I'm talking about, Arizona. I'm sure you've been to some of those events, right? I'm that guy that tried to text and ask questions and you didn't do it. So guess what? Now we're going to let the public answer. And now we're going to ask the representatives of the public if they're actually representing the public. It's going to get fun. It's going to get real fun. And the Just James and Gene are on the roller coaster with me. So they're going to be back on the show. We're going to have an open forum discussion. I don't know what we're going to talk about next. Hey, guys, thank you for tuning in tonight. Appreciate you guys being on the show. We'll have you both on again, okay?
All right. See you later.
All right, guys. So my name's Chris Langell. I'm one of the producers over here at Arizona Metro. And again, thank you for tuning in tonight. We're going to do these open forum discussions. We're going to talk about different topics. If you have a topic, go on and head over to azmetronews.com. Type in contact or hit the contact button, whichever's clever. You'll see it on the website. Shoot me an email. We'll get your topics up and we'll open up a public discussion where everyone can come on the StreamYard. Everyone can come on and say, hey, this is what we think as community members. Let's go. Let's build the community. Let's see what our residents have to say. Anyways, I'm Chris Langell. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you all have a great night.